Judge Joe Brown's all-new barbecue sauce and seasoning. Justice in the form of flavor.
Law firms will take this as a retainer.
What? It must be a law firm where they hungry as hell. Now you gonna help me with this parole I'm dealing with?
Judge Joe Brown's all-new barbecue sauce and seasoning. Justice in the form of flavor. With one taste of our premium blends of all-natural ingredients, herbs, and spices, you'll fall in love with meat all over again. Judge Joe Brown's all-natural barbecue sauce collection is made up of 2 zesty flavors, original and spicy. There's only one way to bring order back to barbecuing. Just add Judge Joe Brown's all-natural barbecue sauce and seasoning, and you be the judge.
Right. Well, this came out yesterday with Nathan Wade admits to coordinating with the White House in Georgia prosecution of Donald Trump.
Georgia prosecutor in the Trump election meddling case testifies before the House Judiciary Committee. That's Nathan Wade. And he admitted he met with White House staff on several occasions while working on the investigation that was led by Fulton County DA Fani Willis. He also says he had to brush up on his knowledge of racketeering law. So that continued.
Yeah, what I told you, I said the main problem is going to be the conspiracy situation for this bunch, because even if it's a legal act done in a legal fashion, if you conspire to do it, that's a felony. So he met with, so that implicates everybody in the White House. I imagine what might be happening is that there is a plea agreement being struck between the feds and him where he gives testimony against the Biden White House, Harris, and all of the rest of the bunch, and the Attorney General for conspiracy. So he will be allowed to plead guilty to something with a lesser cap than what the rest of the people would be facing. Interesting.
But I also think that, listen, they are planning how to save their ass. They're, so it's not like he's throwing her under the bus I don't think he's throwing her under the bus. I think he's
throwing her under the bus.
But I think it's part of their plan.
See, but the federal system is draconian. It's not, there is no good way to get through it, even if you're acquitted. It is a dangerous system. It's not what is intended by our set of laws. And I warned the public over and over again about how far it's gone down the rabbit hole. It is not like a state prosecution. It's persecution, and it's within the exclusive discretion of the U.S. attorney, because the federal grand juries are essentially rubber stamps. And anytime they convene a grand jury and they present their one-sided case, that's going to result in a horror for somebody, particularly a really innocent person who doesn't even know where to start defending the case, because there are no clues the feds don't give them, which, by the way, makes what they did up in New York with the mayor and what they did with Trump up there, not Trump, Diddy up there in New York, very suspect, because usually you'd get 2 paragraphs, but you got 14 pages on a 3-count indictment and 57 pages on a 4-count indictment, which they never ever know how no way do. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to do PR and do a persecution, but it backfired because their little freak casting couch lady didn't make it.
Right. Well, so this was some breaking news, right? That came out a couple of days ago. Fani Willis bombshell whistleblower exposes Bill Barr as mastermind behind Fani Willis RICO case against Trump. So it says
that's conspiracy if the facts are proved.
Yeah, so in a shocking turn of events, whistleblower Patricia Louise Baldwin has come forward with explosive allegations against Bill Barr and Fani Willis. Baldwin, a Brazilian native with a storied storied career in politics, including work in the Brazilian Congress, has provided audio recorded testimony that exposes Barr as the architect of the Fulton County RICO with Fani Willis. This testimony, rich with claims of secret meetings and strategic legal maneuvers, suggests a level of coordination between Barr and Willis that has not been previously acknowledged.
But it's very highly suspected. I certainly have been thinking about it for a long time. It's pretty obvious if you were experienced with such things, what you're looking at. So, as I said, I've never seen a dumber stunt in my entire 50-year-long career than what Fani Willis pulled off. That was the dumbest stunt I've ever seen. It takes my first place now for dumb, crook, and Fifth Amendment.
So it said this woman, Baldwin, the audio testimony recorded with Baldwin's husband reveals that Patricia is the primary source of the information, with her husband contributing additional knowledge. Patricia claims to have all the necessary evidence, documents, photos, and other receipts to substantiate her claims. In full disclosure, the couple also admits to being recently targeted and indicted on a wire fraud charges. Who was Bill Barr again?
With the Attorney General's office.
Under Biden. Right. So they're saying that her testimony is damning. She asserts that Bill Barr was deeply involved in orchestrating RICO charges against President Trump, which will explain the meetings and the visits to Vice President Kamala Harris' residence in office and the White House when they
conspiracy. And all that needs to be done is any one of the conspirators commit an overt act, and all of them are brought up into it.
Right.
I said, if it weren't for the fact that it would be a conspiracy, it can be committed by doing a legal thing in a legal fashion. In other words, you can do something legal. Like there's nothing wrong with you raising the prices of your product in your retail store. That's your business as a businessman, right?
Right.
But if you and 10 other businessmen decide to get together and conspire to raise your prices or to drop your prices to drive an 11th individual out of business, then that's a conspiracy and it becomes illegal. Aside from violating antitrust situations too.
Well,
lowering prices is certainly not against the law for a merchant to drop his prices. But if he drops it because he's agreeing with other merchants to drop the prices to run another third-party merchant out of business, that's a conspiracy and it's criminal.
Well, I think also that they both are trying to speed up to get whatever conviction or punishment from Congress or whoever so that Biden can pardon both of them, Nathan Wade and
he don't have to wait until they get indicted. He can give them a blanket pardon up front.
Oh, he can?
Yeah. Obama did that with 23 British petroleum executives who looked like they were about to be in big trouble for that Gulf oil rig blowout down in the Gulf that caused all those billions of dollars worth of damage.
Oh, so then why don't he just, maybe he's going to do it in January right before.
That assumes he's astute enough to do it. And that assumes that it is as it appears to be.
Now,
but then the question comes into, remember, who's going to pardon him? And then it would be one hell of a stink if he pardoned the vice president for, like, wow, this chick was a candidate for U.S. president.
Why would he have to pardon the vice president?
Because she's the one that had the meetings. It was the
So she would get in trouble too?
She's a head conspirator.
Okay, so, God. All right.
See, in other words, if some people said we're going to get Trump, let us plan and plot on how we're going to get them.
Mm-hmm.
So the crucial thing is let's get Trump. That's the objective. If somebody says we're going to crack down on crime, and you uniformly crack down on all crime, and the former president got caught up in it, that's one thing. But if you say we're going to get him convicted of a crime, we know he must have done something, we will make sure he doesn't win. Well, that's the object of the conspiracy. So as soon as they start meeting to bring that about, I don't care what they do, they're committing a felony, even if what they decide to do is otherwise legal.
So a VP, while they're in office, can be brought up on charges
of conspiracy. Yeah, to violate.
They don't get immunity, only the president.
No, the president doesn't get immunity for that either.
Oh.
That's what they were after Nixon on. That's what the whole doggone thing was about with Watergate. He sat there and conspired to burglarize the Democratic Party headquarters and plant listening devices so there could be a campaign advantage.
So then Joe Biden, he should just give an open pardon to Kamala, Fani, Nathan. But how does that look? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. It looks pretty nasty, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You already pardoned his little crackhead son.
Right.
Even Clinton didn't pardon his brother.
What did Clinton brother do?
Remember that there was a scandal involving some con game that was going on that his brother was caught up in. Even Clinton didn't pardon his brother.
His brother went to prison?
I don't know what ultimately happened on it, but I don't really care. But yeah.
Well, I don't know. To me, Fani Willis, the
reason they have that power is
with her.
Supposing that there is a war going on or one about to occur, so your CIA operative does something.
Mm-hmm.
The United States doesn't excuse that under its laws. It's still a murder. It's still a burglary. It's still arson. It's still sabotage, whatever it may be. But the president could pardon this guy because it might be in the national interest. So because of a lot of things, you don't have him required to justify a pardon. It can be for any reason that he chooses.
Well, speaking of pardons, victims shocked after Biden grants clemency to Kids for Cash judge and $54 million embezzle.
I know he's entitled to do it, but it's like, dude, you really crossed the line on that one.
Victim of a major public corruption cases in Pennsylvania and Illinois are angry that President Joe Biden granted clemency this week to two convicted officials.
Yeah. They need to be strung and quartered, hung and quartered, or strung and quartered.
So it says the commutations were announced Thursday as part of a historic clemency package of 1,500 convicted criminals who the White House said deserve a second chance. Two of the convicted officials whose cases sparked outrage, crooked Pennsylvania judge and a notorious Illinois fraudster. Both had already been released from prison early and put on house arrest during COVID-19 pandemic.
See, what they did was so horrible. They corrupted the justice system and they were putting people in jail for personal profit.
Right. And kids at that, juveniles.
It's particularly horrid.
I have an idea for next year, but yes, that is correct. And he gave them clemency. Now, what's the difference between clemency and pardon?
Pardon means you just wiped out. You're forgiven. You didn't do it. There's no conviction that stands. Clemency means, okay, you've been punished enough. That's the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Time served. Clemency means you cut somebody some slack.
Fani Willis says she's still going to go after the other 5 YSL members.
Well, she may be in jail before she gets to do that.
But my thing is,
She better back off.
yeah.
Because the other thing is, she has refused to comply with this subpoena that the state legislative body have issued. And it's got to do with the expenditure of funds that they appropriated to her office. So we're talking about $10 million that disappeared. So where'd it go? And why don't you produce the records? And she's been ordered to produce those records. So let's see if she complies or she refuses. Now, one of the remedies that's available to the Georgia state legislature is as soon as they come back into session in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, they can have the sergeant at arms physically arrest her, handcuff her, and bring her in custody back before the committee. They can have a search warrant issued and served for probable cause that a crime is being committed, that is misappropriation of the public funds. They can go to a circuit court and demand compliance with their subpoenas. And they can retaliate legislatively, which is Fulton County got $10 million they didn't account for, so they get no more money, and the people will just get cut off, and it's their problem. They can suffer.
Right. So it says Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis said her office is helping to make our streets safer from gang violence.
Oh, crap. She wouldn't know what that was. She's too busy stealing public money, or what it looks like, going around styling and profiling, and got a narcissistic problem with herself.
Let me see this. This
300 convictions of known gang members. New at 6, Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie spoke exclusively with DA Willis about gangs and safety, and she's opening up about the controversial YSL gang racketeering case, Mark.
Yeah, DA Fani Willis basically told me if she had it to do over again, she would still bring a massive YSL indictment. And a top gang prosecutor says since mid-2022, the DA's office has convicted more than 300 gang members, and streets are safer for it. But we also talked to a defense attorney in the YSL case for his take.
If you had it to do over again, would you bring the same massive YSL indictment?
Yes, there were lives lost, and there are lives that matter. And as long as I'm the DA, no matter your socioeconomic status or your race, your life is going to have value if you're harmed in this community.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis says she has no regrets about electing to bring the massive YSL gang racketeering indictment. She says it's the kind of thing she was elected to do.
Do I have any regrets about the YSL case? Obviously, whenever you try a case, you go back and you look at things, and you always have a Monday morning quarterbacking analysis.
I think that any unbiased observer, having watched this YSL case, can't believe that this indictment of the alleged YSL gang was a good decision.
DA Willis said she plans to move forward against 5 remaining YSL defendants.
I'm not going to get into the details of that case.
Despite a not guilty verdict on all charges recently against Diamante Kendrick, a.k.a. rapper Yak Gotti, and a sentence for rap superstar Young Thug, real name Jeffrey Williams, that let him hit the street the night he pled guilty or nolo contendere to all charges he faced, a sentence which could send him to prison for years if he crosses the wrong line.
I think it gets lost on people that many people took responsibility for their part in that case.
Ms. Willis says she is not backing off her aggressive pursuit of gang members in hundreds of cases because it has helped make local streets safer. Fulton County Gang Prosecution Chief Chris Sperry.
Since June of 2022, we have had over 300 gang convictions, ranging anywhere from a criminal damage all the way up to a murder. We've got armed robberies. We've had shootings.
The crime rate drop in Atlanta is totally consistent with the crime rate drop across the United States since 2022, since the fall of COVID.
Doug Weinstein, one of the lawyers who represented Yak Gotti, says he bases his assertion about a widespread violent crime drop across the country on a detailed reading of a Crime and Justice News post reporting major city police chiefs say violent crime dropped last year in 69 cities.
There's plenty of cities where the crime rate has dropped more than Atlanta.
We saw a 21% drop in homicides in Atlanta versus only 10.4% nationwide.
Deputy DA Sperry says a prosecutor used video of a shooting to build a case in which Monday, alleged YSL gang member Javante Scrutchins pled guilty to shooting but not killing a man during an armed robbery. Though it was an Alford plea, meaning a defendant does not admit he committed the crimes, but there's enough to convict him.
YSL was not a gang.
Weinstein says people claiming YSL affiliation committed crimes, but that doesn't mean YSL is a gang.
We've been prosecuting YSL gang members before the YSL RICO, and we're going to continue to prosecute YSL gang members after the RICO.
Now, the DA's office says 14 YSL case defendants have pled guilty to something. One was convicted and one acquitted, and charges were dismissed against some other defendants, I believe 6, to conserve criminal justice resources because they were already serving heavy-duty sentences for other convictions. Sperry, by the way, says the DA's office actually cleared Scrutchins of a murder through its investigation in a separate case. Reporting live.
So what are your thoughts on her?
They're reporting this stuff all across the country on instruction. We found that right in Memphis. The mayor had been bragging about crime dropping, and then KWAM, one of the local stations, went and checked medical examiner records, hospital records, actual reports, cases docketed, and found that the crime was going up, not going down. There was just a memo that was passed around. They got a copy of it or something like that. Mm-hmm. And there was an instruction not to report these violent crimes. So yeah, it goes down. And it was dodged by the gasp of the decaying Biden administration and the blues trying to save their soul. But the jackasses couldn't prevail. So it's a tale. It's not safe out there. And the problem is that they don't know what to do. They do not know what to do. And you can't expect the crime to drop in your district when you as the DA look like you're a better criminal than any of the thugs out there. And by the way, YSL, weren't they into rap? I mean, so like the juxtaposition of a rap group being a major crime gang, it's like, okay, where are we going with this?
Right. Well,